Fusion Radio. Download the app for Android and iPhone and take us everywhere you go. myfusionradio.com.
And he's almost 17.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to this game called Life with yours truly, Coach PBJ. I am so super excited
Oh, my goodness.
to be here tonight with Jestacia.
Oh, yes.
Oh, my God. We have known each other, I don't know,
A
at
long
least
time.
25, 30 years.
I know.
And we lost touch.
Yep.
And it's probably been about 10 or 15 years.
Yeah.
since
Life has
then.
been happening.
Life keeps lifing, right?
Yes. Yes. It's been a long time.
But Stacy, I'm so happy to have you here. I talk about you all the time.
Do
You're part of
you?
my testimony because if you remember,
Don't start, but go ahead.
I tell people that when I didn't get on a plane for the first time until I
Yes.
was 40 years old.
Right.
And I tell them that Jestacia got me on the plane. Do you remember that?
Oh, was there a retreat?
We was going to a retreat.
Yes,
so-
a retreat.
And do you remember we had some buddy passes or something?
Uh-huh.
And
Oh, that's a long
we got
time
on.
ago.
It was a long time ago, and we got on the plane, and Jestacia just taking care of me, and we ended up on the exit row. And you remember that lady
Yes.
came and said, did the little speech,
Uh-huh.
and I lost my voice, and I was like, what's gonna happen? You remember that?
Yep.
And Stace
'Cause
was
I-
like, I don't think that's a good seat for her.
Right. I guess I was a flight attendant too.
You're right,
Back in the day.
right.
So I was like, just relax. This really is a good seat next to
You're
her.
right.
But
they
you know
moved me though. I
what?
couldn't do that.
No. Little stress
It was real
going
stressful.
on. But congratulations.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Look, I'm on the plane all the time. now.
All the
I love
time.
it. You help me get free.
See, but you know what? Let me get all myself together.
Okay.
You overcame that.
I did.
and you've been on the plane how many times since then?
I can't even count.
Exactly.
Yeah. And remember,
Keeping
I was
it
like,
moving.
remember I said, you mean to tell me we got there in what, 45-minute flight,
Yeah.
and I could have been on the beach 5 hours and 15 minutes earlier.
5 hours, 15 minutes early. You remember
I
all
remembered
that.
all
You
that.
have a
I
good
mean,
mem-
because it's a part of my story. Because you remember
Yeah.
that year was my year. It was after Robert had passed,
Yeah, that was
and
a
that's when I
lot.
began to face my fears.
That's
and that was
right.
one of my biggest fears. So thank you.
You did good.
I don't think I've ever properly thanked you.
You are welcome. That's what
I've
we're
been
here
out
to
the
do.
country and everything now, girl.
See,
yeah, it's just living
everything
life.
since then. And so you talk about lost touch, but you're one of those when you call, you answer. So you're
Yes.
one of those friends, and I want to just say thank you for that because I know your heart.
Yes.
So yeah, I had to press my way, but over here.
And I appreciate that. Because
Yes,
I just
ma'am.
called you, 2 days ago?
I know. I was like, we're gonna make
Stacy.
it happen. We're gonna make it
Right,
happen.
because we've been missing each other, but I really have been missing you, and I'm just so grateful
Yeah.
to be here. So this is the 3rd season of our podcast.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And it's called This Came Life. This
Okay.
game called Life with Coach PBJ. And
Okay.
I came up with that title because, there's a new phrase now, life be life. And I'm just learning that life is just a game, and you just have to learn how to play the game.
Yeah.
And as long as I'm thinking of it that way, when it happens, then you have to figure out your next move,
You
right?
figure out your next
Right.
move like chess.
Just like chess.
And it's easier though when you allow God to orchestrate your moves.
Absolutely.
You struggle
Oh my God.
if you just want to do it on your own. You can stay in that space.
Yeah.
But when you figure it out and get a little wisdom, you realize, you know what, the way I interpret this, with God's help, it's going to be a lot different than on my own.
And you get to choose that, right?
You sure do.
Yeah.
You can make a difference. You can decide. But you know what I've learned? God won't force you.
He will not.
If you want to stay in that wilderness zone with it, you can stay there as long as you want to until you get tired.
And I always say, and how is that serving you?
I
Right?
know, right.
Just
How's
stay in
that working
space,
for
right?
you?
It's not working for you, right? Is
At
it
all.
working for you?
At all.
So, Stacey, what has been going on in your life? I still
my
see you.
goodness.
I'm so grateful for social media because
yes,
they do keep us
yes,
connected.
we can stay connected.
And I've been listening to your podcast, and I've been listening
Yes.
to like I told you, the meditative,
yeah,
the
the whole
breathing
self-care group.
exercise.
Okay.
Yes. So as a matter of fact, that
Yeah.
retreat that we went to was a self-care retreat
Yes, it was
with
self-care.
Dr. Tony Alvarado.
Yes, that was a long
yeah,
time.
it was a long time ago. Yeah.
That was a long time. Well, the retreats are still near and dear to my heart, and then I still teach busy women like yourself to take a moment and breathe and step away, whether it's a personal one-on-one retreat or going with a group. And not a retreat with an agenda, because most times you can go and then the retreat is stacked with everything and you're already running all the time. That's not what you need.
Right.
But to slow down so that you can hear yourself, be still, make time to heal and restore, learn how to breathe properly, because most people are panting from the chest instead of deeply breathing. And then really hear your next move. Like, what does God have for you in this season? And it's scary. Not everybody lives that way. I get it. But when you learn that my steps are ordered, and you really do believe that, and you know, I call it the shaky legs. You get past the shaky legs and like stand firm and rooted, then you can make some choices that will save you time. And they're not always comfortable, you know, but that's the difference. But that's how you win the game.
So how did you, because I know that you still do things with tea?
Oh, yes, I do the blending. They're more custom blending now.
Okay. And
yeah.
There was something else, some fragrance. Was it oils?
Yeah, that's how I
Oils?
started with the herbs that were the oils, because the herbs from the Bible, most times people are reading over those scriptures and not really sure what they mean. But in Revelations, it talked about the leaves of the trees were used to heal the nations. But what does that really mean? And then you see all these different herbs. But I did a deep dive research on all of that. And then my studying in school was around how herbal medicines affect the body. But and God has a sense of humor, because when I would work in TV and film, I would work on the outside of the body, you know, putting the look together for talent.
Right.
But when they would come to see me and I would use these different remedies on them, they would come out completely different. Like their countenance would change, and they can go and perform and do TV. And I was like, well, what happened during that session? And I started to research what herbs, what's going on, how does it affect the body, how does it work when it goes into the bloodstream. And so for different issues, whether it was, you know, depression or grief, or whether it was just cancer or so on and so forth, then that's how I developed Jalor Organic Teas. And with the teas, there was a basic line that was a baseline back then. But you know, God, how he does, he just go deeper and deeper.
Absolutely.
This is not enough.
Right.
So going deeper, I started just custom blending them specifically for people's needs.
Okay.
Ideally, a preventative state is best, but most people are already in a crisis health-wise or dealing with something. And so how do you customize what they need specifically to get through that time, whether it's a busy mom or a busy executive, or whether someone's, you know, using it for their household, just staying well. That is God's intention. But the difference between, especially with the faith-based community, a lot of it was deemed new age, because people didn't understand it, or what does that mean, and it's for over there. But no, it's very much for all of God's people. But they're not really, the education wasn't there to teach them about awareness, some things we can avoid, even what we eat, what we're doing. And we saw that even when the pandemic broke out, and just how culturally our immunity systems, how it's set up, and then what we're eating, and then how we got to get back some of the basics. So because it's ancient medicine.
Right. So, and that is something hard. You're right. You're definitely new age, right?
Yeah.
But I love it.
That's
so
what they think. But it's
old
age.
But it's old age, because it's in the Bible, right?
I know.
You know, you probably don't know this, but in 2016, I was diagnosed with early stage breast cancer.
Okay. No. Okay.
Yeah. And of course, when you hear that word,
yeah.
And I remember just really spending some time alone, just, you know, like God would.
Yeah.
And I did stumble across a lot of those scriptures about herbs for the body. And Tony and I embarked on a journey to become total raw vegan.
Oh,
we
wow.
We have
okay, now.
We have fallen all the way back. We've backslid, bless the Lord. Oh, my soul. But we kind of eat stuff again. But during that time, we were completely raw vegan.
Okay.
No cooked food. We did it for almost 2 years, Jestacia.
Oh, wow.
And then I went back to the doctor, and there was no sign of the cancer. So
praise God.
it just shows that God word.
That's right.
It's yes and amen.
And faithful.
And it's work. And I have no regrets for that. And now I was been talking to Tony and said, okay, I really got to get back on track.
Yes.
Because now it's showing up in different ways in the body. Now we don't want to wait until we get another bad report to say, okay, let me take my health seriously. Right. So
because guess what? We're aging every single day.
So I'm so glad you're here, so I can get my plan together, right? Get my life together, right?
I think you said you wanted to come in or do a retreat or something.
I did say that. I did.
Yeah.
And life keep lifing, but I was like, I got to call Stacey. I got to get with you, because I know it's just that time.
Exactly. Well, December 3rd is one, and if not, you can just plan your own. Okay. And sometimes that has to.
And I'm actually in the middle of planning a reset retreat.
Yeah.
Right. And so maybe I can bring you as a guest also.
I see.
And just teach us how to relax and to live and to release and to let go.
Yeah.
To focus. I was looking at a podcast you did the other day and just talking about the breathing and
exactly.
the meditating.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of times growing up, you know, even though the Word of God says meditate on this every day and night,
I know, but
we don't do it.
Right.
But I love meditating.
Yeah.
I love that reset. Still practicing it, and I love the breathing.
Yeah.
When I was, I retired. I don't know if you know, I retired from CDC.
But I remember you talking about that. Okay.
But right before I retired, 5-minute meditations became my best friend.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because it's just in 5 minutes you can really reset your mind, reset your emotions and everything.
Yeah. You're great, Paula.
So
keep it up and taking that time to do it.
Right.
And so now just being intentional about it.
Yeah.
I mean, just like really so serious, because we think about, growing spiritually, but the mind and body is very much connected to the spirit. I don't know why that is left out most times. And then we find that we have to deal with the whole person and the whole self. And then how do you do it? Walk it. And then so your family is well. You can teach your kids how to be well. The way you conduct business will be different and well. And you start to see when these areas show up that's not well.
Right.
And getting back into alignment.
So, sister.
Yes, ma'am.
I was just telling my husband earlier today, because, everything gets on my nerve.
Yeah.
And so even these little aches and pain. And I'm discovering that it's just that age thing.
It's
and it's not hormonal. And that menopause thing.
Yeah.
I'm owning it. It's there.
It is real.
It is real. But so I said, this is just so God, because I said, Lord, I really need, because my doctor, she recommended something for the hot flashes and for the emotional up and down and I'm like, yeah, and it was just approved. Whatever this medicine was, it was just approved by FDA. And she says, but before I can prescribe you got to come in and do a liver test.
Okay.
Why?
Yeah.
Why would I need to do a liver test? Because of the side effects, it can impact my liver. You know what? I can deal with the hot flashes. I can't deal with my liver jacked up. I'm going to pass on that. Yeah.
And see, that's an area where we could do the Q&A, because there's some natural, like rose is something you can incorporate in your diet. There is actually a rose tea. Rose is good for hormonal balance.
Okay.
And you know that.
You got some in the car?
I know, right? Normally I travel with some of them. But remember, as I believe Psalms, it talks about hyssop.
Yep.
How hyssop cleanse and do the detox. There are some basics that you can get to, and then there are some herbs that really help us with our hormonal balance. And I would just recommend incorporating that. But then first we would just do a little workup on just a consultation. What do you feel you need?
Right.
Feeling irritable and the mood swings going up and down, the ashwagandha just to balance your mood. So a lot of times having to do.
And I have the capsule ashwagandha.
Yeah.
You got a tea for that too?
Yeah, there's a tea or capsule.
Okay.
Whichever works best for you, but it balances the body, help you to balance the body. And a lot with Chinese herbs, the Asian medicine, I do feel that it ages you backwards in some ways. But what's the reason you feel that way?
Like 20 today.
But let me tell you, it really is just a constant cell renewal.
Yeah.
The older we get, the renewal slows down. But the herbs and say the ancient medicines, it just simply kind of gets that going again. And then you want to feel good, not just look good on the outside, right?
Absolutely.
You want everything to be best it can on the inside. But yes, I mean, I'll be celebrating. Praise God. It's hard to believe sometimes myself, but yes, early, 50-ish. But I'm loving it. But feeling good is important. But you do start to feel the little movements and joints and everything.
I tell them, I said, I wake up at 6 o'clock. My body wakes up like 9.
Right. Exactly. Your body get going. And so how can you help yourself with that? And literally, Paula, thinking about what is that? Because self-care is starting to be a buzzword now. It's not that. What is your well-being plan daily? It is not just when you think about it and when the body's going through trauma.
Right. Absolutely.
How do you take care of your mind, your body, and your soul on a daily? What does that look like for you?
Yeah.
And if you haven't visited that, then go back and look at it, because what you need in your teens, your 20s, your 30s, your 40s, it changes.
It does.
You know?
You remember Dr. Tony Alvarado?
Absolutely.
And so she does. She has a self-care network.
Oh,
and,
good.
We have a tea talk.
Okay.
And we come in, I think it's on Sunday nights, and you bring your cup of tea, and then we just, just women, we're just talking about what we're talking about.
Okay.
You should invite, next time she have one, I'm going to invite you to be on there. You would absolutely love that.
Seen her in a while,
you're right. You would.
I know she does coaching too.
And she did right. And I'm actually graduating from her coaching program.
Oh,
for the self-care. And one of the things that I learned from her, in line with what you're saying, is she asked me, Paula, know your numbers as far as health. And I go and I look at those numbers. They mean absolutely nothing for me.
Yeah.
But that made me start paying attention. And when they were saying it was out of the range, what does this mean? And I start asking the question. And then she explained to me that she had a board of director for her health, for her self-care.
Yeah.
And that when she went to her doctor, she interviewed her doctor. I don't want to just go to a doctor. I want to see if we're going to. And all of that really just helped me to start putting things in perspective and saying, you have to be the champion of your own life. Too often, we just put our care in their hands. I mean, it's just like being a parent.
Yeah.
You can't send your child to school and then expect for all the responsibility to be on the teacher.
No, you have to
know what I'm
stay
saying?
involved.
You have to stay involved. And likewise with our health, we have to stay involved. Our mental health. Especially being Black women.
Absolutely. And it's so much, but even with that, just unpacking it, because, every person has a story. And there's a lot of trauma just behind, just culturally and then even DNA passed down that we don't even realize that you're even working with. And by the time you realize it, that's a thing, then you might be dealing with a thing. So really doing a deep dive assessment on what's happening in your body, in your mind, did your parents deal with this? Because we swallow a lot. We've had to swallow and get over it, keep it moving, go to the next thing, not just because we wanted to. That's just what the hand we were dealt. So now
you don't love God. Let me tell you something. Girl.
Yes.
So this weekend I had an incident, something that happened, drama.
Okay.
And as I was laying in my bed, because it stirred my peace so much that I couldn't sleep. So Friday night, I'm like, wait, I'm up at 1 o'clock and I just could not go to sleep. I'm tossing and I'm turning. I'm like, God, why is this happening? Lord, I don't understand. Why do people not think about, the domino effect of the decisions we make and all of this stuff? And I'm just dealing with it in my mind. And I heard clearly God says, girl, find your voice. So I got up, I'm a writer. So I got up and I just started writing what I heard. And one of the things he said, that when I look back over my life, I spent a lot of time swallowing what I feel. Swallowing my words because, you don't want to challenge authority. You don't want to try to, but deep down inside of you, you know that this is not right. I need to say something about this. But because of our upbringing, especially, children are supposed to be seen and not heard, and you don't challenge authority. And it's not a challenge. Why do we have to decide that it's a challenge? Why do we choose those words, those choice of words? Why not let's just have a conversation? But
swallowing actually makes you ill.
It does.
So swallowing, what happens, you're suppressing inside the body, and then you start trading off, and then you just get sick. It's dis-ease in the body. And so you have to deal with it. Not that you're trying to be confrontational or you just not trying to follow instructions, but you have to deal with it if it doesn't feel good. But when you self-betray yourself, and that means not acknowledging, going along, because
self-betray yourself.
Self-betrayal happens.
Talk about that.
Yeah, self-betrayal happens when you go along in situations because somebody wanted you to, or you want to people please, or you find yourself in a situation because you don't want to disrupt feathers. You want to just be quiet. Our ancestors had to deal with it, and families, people have to deal with it. Things are not necessarily addressed, so you may kind of swallow and self-suppress. People are in relationships that start off being unhealthy, then you start suppressing and not dealing with issues. In your work and day to day, a lot of people stay busy so they don't have to deal with themselves. Because the moment you're still, you have to deal with your mind. You have to deal with what you're feeling inside your body. And if you're not ready to look at that, it's tough. But you have to look at it, because if not on this end, you look at it on this end.
Right.
So if not on the preventative, then you'll be going to your doctor's appointments, addressing it on the end. So you have to still deal with the emotional piece that got you there, so that you can start to really recover and heal on the inside. Some things have been suppressed so deeply that by the time you realize it, you didn't even realize, because it was also a way to cope.
Right.
It's also,
It's a coping
it
for
is
sure,
a
for
coping
sure.
mechanism. It's a way to cope. And then you bring in other things. People use, substances to cope in different ways. But when you get still and when you sit down, you realize, okay, I need to be real with myself, so I'm not repeating the same thing.
It's a cycle.
Absolutely.
And I'm not repeating this cycle.
Not repeating the cycle. And then the other part is, it is refreshing. You get to just kind of renew yourself.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And how do you suggest that we do that, Jestacia, when like right now, someone out in our audience, they're suppressing something.
Yeah.
They're in a space where they're not happy. They're in the space where they're dealing with something. They're suppressing. They're swallowing.
Right.
And so I would like to think that by you just saying that, you just woke somebody up.
Yeah.
You just stirred somebody up. And so what's the first step? If they're alcoholic, the first step is to acknowledge that there's a problem. Right. And so what would you be when you realize that this is not, I'm doing some training also, as a coach. And when life is not serving you well, this is not serving me well, what do I do?
Yeah.
How do I start to break that cycle?
When it's not serving you well, you first need to change your environment.
And sometimes that's hard.
Yeah, it is hard, because you're going to make some choices, and most times we're very comfortable in it.
We're comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah, we're comfortable. It's like a familiar hell or unfamiliar heaven.
Wow.
So why do we stay in these situations? Because it's comfortable. It's kind of like, whether it's a job or relationship, golden handcuffs. Oh, it feels good and everything is nice and I have this and that, but you don't have inner peace. And so changing the environment, because if you, my friend and I was talking about this the other day, if you are cluttered, you cannot be creative. If you're cluttered, you cannot be spiritually creative.
If you're cluttered, you can't be creative.
No. Yeah, if you got a lot going on, you cannot be creative and have clear space and hear God. One of the things I like to share with women is take a clear piece of paper and make a circle and put the letters M-E in the circle, me, and then make branches from the circle, and everything that you're connected to goes on a line. Everything that you're connected to, your roles. So you're a wife, you're a mother, you run a business, you do that. When you look at all of this, because sometimes you don't, it's just in your head, put it all on paper. Every area requires energy. Okay, so by the time you look at that, your bandwidth have changed. You don't no longer even have the amount of energy that you had 10 years ago, but you're still carrying the same load.
Wow.
So you may need to adjust and say, maybe a small percentage can go here, but I really need to spend time with my family.
Right.
Maybe a small percentage can go here, but I need to spend time working. And something will sacrifice. I mean, when I decided, okay, I'm going to be a full-time mom and work, I could not go at the same level that I did when I was in the TV industry.
Right.
Not and raise my son in a healthy way.
Right.
But I do know, because of that sacrifice, he's able to be a drone pilot today at 16.
Who?
He's a pilot. So
like a pilot.
yes,
Like
he's an aerospace engineer. But the trade-off is, listen, it's got, that energy has to come from somewhere.
Yeah.
Be real with yourself.
How cool is that though?
Okay.
Oh my God.
So I'd rather he do that and not
Yeah.
have to figure out ways on how he's going to set up his future
Yeah.
and walk into his
Yeah.
future, versus if I'm all over the place, his father travels, and then, okay, so who's going to raise the child?
Right.
Who's going to make sure they pour into? Who's going to do this and that? So you have to make decisions along the way that support the life you said you want to live.
That's good.
And if you don't, I mean, it's not going to happen.
And it's work.
It is work.
You said that when you
Absolutely.
took it that circle, you put the me in the middle, then you did the branches and all of this stuff, and then you said sometimes I may have to sacrifice and spend time with my family.
Yeah.
But even more so, sometimes we have to sacrifice to just spend time with me.
Yourself. time with yourself. Well, you realize I really didn't have any time because you end up putting yourself at the bottom
I
of that list.
I did an exercise just Sunday with some of my coaching clients because we're like in week 3 of our coaching program that we're working on. And life keeps lifing, and some of the women were like, well, I'm working on it. I still haven't gotten it. You know, like week 1 assignment. Still haven't got it because we have so many things going on. And I'm like, okay, get a piece of paper. Write on this piece of paper. Tell me everything. Write your name in the middle of the paper. I actually borrowed this from somebody else. Write your name in the middle of the paper. And they wrote their name down. And then so put all the other stuff that you have going on. And so all of this stuff on your paper, what's the most important thing? You know?
What's the most important thing?
And based on everything you wrote, what's the first?
Important?
The first thing you wrote is what I think should be the first thing that's important to you. That's yourself. It goes back to the airplane.
Yeah.
First, you got to put the oxygen on yourself. And so many times we're oxygenating every area of our lives, and we're sitting up here gasping for breath.
Gasping on fumes.
Yeah.
And I'll give you a scripture that helps, Proverbs 31:15. And it says that she rises early to take care of those who she leads. And so find your early. So sometimes it's when everybody goes to bed, or it's before the household wakes up. But if you find that few minutes, and I'd rather you take 10 versus trying to take 34 minutes. If you have to take 10 minutes in the morning, 10 in the afternoon to be intentional, to breathe, to be conscious of what's happening, then do that. But you're going to have to make that time, because when you self-align, you may realize, oh, I don't need to do this anymore. And some things you can delegate, and some things need to come off the list.
Self-align. You're dropping some good nuggets on there.
Yes.
You have to self-align.
Yes, ma'am. You have to self-align.
You know, we get our cars in alignment, right?
We do. You have to self-align, because if you're constantly betraying yourself, then you get, mad at yourself and down, and then that's when women gain weight, and that's when you just start breaking out, and then you start having breakdown of health issues because you're caring for outside instead of inside.
We know how to dress up the outside of the cup.
Absolutely.
You said you started off in CNN and you was doing makeup and stuff and film and television. And
yes.
We know how to make up
we can
the
make
outside
up
of
look
this
real
cup.
good.
Right.
Looks real
but
nice.
on the inside.
Torn up. And so, if an artist was going to go and perform or do the Grammys or an award and they're just not feeling it, but they're paid to have somebody help them get there. If you're not there, and if you're going to be on a station, the station know what they want you to look like. Your look is not even your own. You got to get your hair color approved. So think about that in our daily lives. Like, what does God want us to look and like. Feel like? Right. Most times it's far off, because man looks at the outside when God looks at the inside. It's so far removed, because if you try to place intellect, make sense out of it with your your own mind, it just doesn't mash up. So you have to, by faith, spend time with God in your quiet time to find out, what in this season do I need to be doing? What do I need to let go of? Who do I?
That part. That part too.
Exactly.
And it's okay. I tell people all the time, it's okay to love people from a distance.
Yes.
If your energy is draining me and depleting me, and every time I come in your presence, I get a headache, then it's okay to look. I mean, and no matter who it is.
But it takes growth. Because some people just the attachment. Because
we have this spirit of obligation. We feel obligated that we have to have. But I'm like, when helping you is hurting me, I have to make a shift.
But there's different type of ties and bonds bondage that we get into, and then next thing you know, for different reasons. And if you're not doing the self check-in, they drag out a little bit longer than they need to. So it's easy to just get in there and stay, and then you just kind of create. Because when you go in these spaces and it sounds like a good idea in the beginning, and someone says, "Oh yeah, I think you should really be doing this and selling this. That would be great for you." You know that does not line up with the direction you headed in.
Absolutely. My line sister said to me yesterday, I said, I told her, if I don't borrow that, she says, this month she is intentionally taking care of herself.
Yeah.
She says, because the month is November. So
I like that. It's the November. Yes.
November.
Yes.
I said, girl, I love it if I don't borrow that.
Sentence.
It's a complete sentence. So,
but I don't know why we're still struggling with that conversation.
No, absolutely.
Yes.
Nope. in this. But you know, Stacy, Jestacia, every time I have another birthday,
yeah,
I get a little bit more challenged.
Yeah.
In not being so direct.
Yeah. Okay.
So every time I get closer to another birthday, the directness come a little bit more director, right?
Yes.
And so,
even more.
you know, when you hit 50, you hit 30, be like, okay, life is okay. Then you hit 40, be like, wait a minute. Now, by the time you hit 50, like, look,
you like, I'm not doing this.
I'm not doing it.
Right.
And when you start knocking, knocking real hard on 60, oh, girl,
watch out.
No, I'm not doing that.
I know.
I'm not. No is a complete sentence, and I'm okay with saying no.
And you're okay
I'm
with
okay
that.
with saying no. Life is too short.
It is.
Yeah.
And so by the time you think about it, because I was thinking, your babies are grown. And now
Girl,
you got
I got a
grandbaby.
grandbaby.
I was going to say,
yes,
congrats
that's
on
my
your
poo-poo.
grandbaby.
Yes.
But when you start looking at that and making time for the relationships that matter, in the relationship that matter,
Right.
You have to build around what matters.
You have to build around what's matter.
Build around what matters.
And family, my husband, my children, that's what matters to me.
Exactly.
Right? Tony and I, we're on a mission to leave a legacy. I said, when I leave this earth, Anna Lee, my grandbaby, her grandchildren will have my picture on their mantle, right?
Yes,
and they're gonna That's my poo poo. Right, absolutely. So you know, this I didn't even talk about what this season we've been talking about when life happens, right? Life is always life, and when life happens. And so with my guests, when you hear that. So when life happens, what does that mean to you? I put on our notes that when life happens, you keep living.
Yeah.
You keep doing.
Yeah.
And you keep winning.
Yeah.
Because I put a post out this morning. A lot of times people, I'm trying. There is no such thing as try. There is no try. Because try is a way of letting yourself off the hook.
Yeah.
Because then how many times you heard, well, at least I tried. No, you didn't try. You didn't put in any effort. You hid behind that little 3
You
letter
have
word.
to change your mindset. But when life happens, first thing I do is take a breath.
Yes.
So when you take that breath and you just take a minute and then decide the path. Because when I thought about when you said winning at life, and I was like, you know what? I wouldn't have been able to win at anything if I didn't have some type of faith walk.
Right.
And so your faith walk is important, and taking time to grow in that.
Right.
And then just real get serious with yourself.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying it has to look like anybody else's faith walk.
Be honest with yourself.
Yes. Yourself. Do not try to follow somebody else's blueprint for their faith walk. It is your faith walk between you and God. And it gets real. The first book I wrote was called The Ministry of Mind, Body, and Spirit. And I talked about the brick wall experience. Everybody will have a brick wall experience. That means, right, when you hit your head and you wake up, like you almost hit and coincide with life right on. Is like, now how are you going to handle this? And can you hear me now? It is that moment when you decide how you want to live. And another thing that we deal with is our mindset. If your mind is not right, you won't be able to handle the thing that you've been praying for. Because you can talk about prayer and manifesting all day long, but if your mental is not right, so when I start to hear, like, what is a holistic wealth about? Because so many people talk about wealth, but see, our version of what that looks like and God's version is two different things. He wants us to be whole and well, and in the relationships and your well-being, and people have to take accountability too. You know, this is not working for me. Just because, even if your family, you're out of line, you're out of order, if it's no respect, it's disrespect, then you have to address the hard stuff, and most people don't.
Have to have those crucial conversations.
Yeah, it has to happen. And
that the most crucial conversation that you're going to have is going to be that conversation with yourself.
What is your conversation with yourself?
I tell my clients, when you wake up in the morning, I said to them on Sunday, I want you to look at that girl in the mirror. And I want you to encourage that girl.
Yeah.
That girl is waiting on you to encourage her. She's waiting on you to tell you that you're enough. Yeah. She's waiting on you to tell you that I love you.
Yeah.
She's waiting on. She don't need to hear it from anybody else. She needs to hear it from you.
She needs to hear it from you.
Right? I said, so look at her in the mirror. And so when you look at her in the mirror, don't start pointing out her imperfections.
Right.
She don't care about all that.
Don't do that.
She just needs to know that she is okay.
Yeah.
She's enough. She needs to know that. And you're the only one that can tell her
the only one. And start to journal the process, because if you journal it, that's good. Because too often we're moving around spewing out your unhealthiness onto someone else.
Hurt people.
And and women have to be careful about that too. I've seen it on all these different levels, and whether it's corporate or whether it's community, you have to make sure you are looking at yourself, dealing with yourself, so you don't spread the ill on someone else.
I agree with you 100%.
And when you do that, you feel good. You just feel better. It's not there's no competition with you. Yeah.
And it's okay.
It is okay.
And we're all winning when we sit in our lane. You talked about when and I've shared this before, but we talk about having the conversation with yourself and living your truth, right?
Yeah.
And so that whole idea took root in me in 2013.
Okay.
In 2013, my father passed away.
Okay.
And my dad was not a man of many words. But when Paul opened up his mouth to speak, he had something to say. Okay. Mr. Paul.
Okay.
And so one day, when they said counseling, I'm going to find all the herbs, I'm looking for the herbs, I'm looking for what God says, and found all of this stuff and all these reports. And Dad said, if I got to give up everything I love, I'm ready to go. He said, and I'm tired. I mean, he was 71 years old. I'm tired. Like, tired of what, Dad? Yeah. And Dad says, we weren't born to stay here. And there was his story, and he said that even Lazarus, Jesus raised him from the dead, but he's here today. And I'm like, you got a good point there, Dad. But we're not ready for you to go right now. But he said he was tired. And then my dad, he said to me, he started telling me his story of being a 8-year-old little boy with an imaginary friend, he said, named Truth.
Okay.
Now, kids have imaginary friends. Yeah. But never saw one that named him Truth. Right. Right? Right. And so the more Dad described his relationship with Truth, the more I understand that Truth was the Holy Spirit. And he said that Truth followed him everywhere he went. He says that Truth protected him. Dad said when he got to be grown, right around the time I was born, he says Truth, he decided he was going to be a pretty boy. Okay. And he said he started falling on hard times. Up in that place, he never wanted for anything. And he said he cried out the truth. Now, he a grown man now. Right. And he called out for Truth.
I remember that.
And he says, Truth said to him, as long as you continue to do what I've told you to do, you'll never want for anything in your life. And Dad says, and I haven't. And I'm like, Truth was the Holy Spirit, right? Yeah. And so Dad says to me, so no matter what you do in this game called life, and that he didn't say that part. I'm adding that in there. Right. He said, and whenever you do, make sure that you always search for truth. True. Oh my God, Jestacia, and my journey began. I've always been a watch out. Right. I just ended up having to conform because people couldn't handle my questions. Right. Growing up. Right. And so when you get told shut up or you don't think like that or don't question authority, you eventually you conform.
And I've seen you. Oh my God. Let me just say this, because that's the part that makes you unique. Oh yeah. The Paula that makes you unique, and I think you kind of came out in that more the older you had gotten. But that's the ministry part of you that you use when you're talking to women. Right. The straight up talk on the truth. Let's just call a spade a spade. Yeah, right? And the takeaway is interesting that what you do in the show now, that you use the inspiration with your dad to lead about this game called life, and the truth. And so standing your truth. Yeah. And so hence the retreat that is a reset. So your season of reset, really, really look at what those tools are going to be that's going to carry you on throughout the rest. So it's not just a little fly by night, a seasonal thing, or sometimes we, a church movement is like, right now we dealing with it. No, the reset in this time frame for this stage of life carries you throughout life.
Amen. And we really need a reset. And you say your next retreat is in December 3rd?
That's December. That's a corporate group. So it's in Monroe, Georgia, a sweet little area that...
Girl, My dad was from Monroe.
See, you supposed to be there. Yes.
My brother still
Holy
lives
ground.
in Monroe.
Are you serious?
Yes.
Well, you know exactly where it is.
Yes,
down
I know
the
where
road.
Monroe. Yeah.
And the woman there, she is fantastic. But you know, these are holy hookup relationships when you are sitting still and you know God just aligned you. That's what that being creative and being quiet so that you can hear.
She says, "What'd you say about that, Delana? When you're not quiet."
Yeah, the clutter, you can't get clear.
When you're cluttered,
creative.
you're not. When you can't
be creative.
You can't be creative when you're cluttered.
You're not spiritually creative because God is not the author of confusion or chaos.
Yeah, or clutter.
Or clutter at all. And so that can then bother you. But in that space, we will breathe together. We will actually have herbal infusion where we sip the tea, the herbs. There is a purpose around that.
Okay.
Is
it a
very
day? Is it a
intentional.
weekend? How many?
It is really just taking an hour or two out of the day.
Okay.
Yeah, it is what we call this one. What we call like a pop-up retreat.
Okay.
But having people take a moment, because you can't really always take a day or take a weekend.
That's good.
But to train yourself, if you can't get away, how do you take the half a day? I'm going to do this. Why don't you mark yourself or schedule yourself for a mini retreat for your day? And so I'm training and teaching this, and I do have private sessions. Like we have a studio where we do private one-on-one sessions where because some people need a little bit more.
Right.
But in this sense, it will be a very nice, serene. There's the water. There's, the spa area. There's the grounds that you walk. In Monroe, Georgia.
How about that?
I know. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
Yes.
I mean,
the spaces, because I can't always get up to the mountains. I can't always.
But you can come to the mountain. You can bring the mountains to you.
There you go. Bring the mountains to you. Awesome. Yeah. So I do believe in where you live and dwell best you can. Yeah, that's your sanctuary.
Right. Amen, Stacey.
Yeah, that's your sweet
sanctuary.
So
let me see. Make sure we got more time. Okay, we got about 7 more minutes. So
how many?
It's 7:54. So we got a few more minutes.
So
we can chat together.
I got you.
So Stacey, this has been good, and I am definitely going to be making an appointment.
Yes,
to come in.
I'm gonna follow up with you.
Yes, get my resets on. I used to get your oils and your teas back in the day. Yeah.
Yeah. So it is time. It has evolved, and I think you would really. I think you'll be ready for something.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Yeah.
Girl.
Yes, ma'am.
I think Tony ready too, ain't
Tony's ready. Yeah.
For me to get a reset. She got some herbal, some teas
good.
and stuff that's going to help me.
Yes, see, he's good. That's great. That's awesome support there.
Right,
that's
right.
Very
absolutely.
good.
So, my, I saw, like you said, that's awesome what you've done with your son. And I saw his picture the other day, Tony. She took a picture with him. I'm like, I know that ain't the baby.
She's like, that's the baby.
That ain't the
yes,
baby.
Ma'am. See, he's a young man now.
He's a young man
I
now.
know.
She said she have to fight the women off, huh? Because he is so attractive.
I know. And he's with Andre, so they have it.
That's his
time.
twin.
It is. It? So he's with his dad, and they do their thing.
Yeah.
And then and he's kind of like a little mama's boy at the same time.
Right.
But
right.
we have a good time. But just to
Right.
look at how he's grown to be this young man.
Right.
It's awesome.
Right. And so where's your worship like? Where are you attending a church? Are you?
I do. There's a women's ministry I'm affiliated with.
Okay.
In my own retreat time, I also lead a group of women.
Okay.
And it's internationally. A lot of these women I haven't met. It's over 300 women, and we kind of meet a live group in the Facebook group as well.
Okay.
And so Church on the Main, those are my sisters that I can intertwine and get with in their women's ministry.
Okay.
That I love. I've been with Jennifer Cooknut since going through life together.
Right.
But I also know a lot of the ministry work that I do outside of church. They're my sisters I can call on and say, okay, I'm going through this, or you pray with, because you do want to, I will say this to women in ministry and leadership, community, also surround yourself with a good, healthy base that can also handle support, where there's an exchange, edifying one another, because you do a lot of feeding. But when I did go through my own stuff in life, and you realize the people that you were feeding, they can't handle what you were what's going on in your life. So you need to make sure you always keep a base of people around you that support and hold you up, because that's not for everybody when you're in ministry. So I've been at that place and said, never again. You got to leverage that, because it can happen without you even realizing it's happened. So you need to always, even coming here, before I open my mouth to do anything, especially in God's name, my work I can't take credit for. You know, you have your people pray for you. You have them hold you up. You know, because you don't know who needs what you're sharing. You know, I've had people say, I needed that word. I felt suicidal. You know, there are things, and then there's times where I know I need to retreat back. So, because it's easy for me to isolate and shut down, and so I need to also have that support pouring into me.
And that nice, healthy,
absolutely
harmony. I won't even say balance, but like harmony. That's a word that Dr. Tony uses all the time. Just harmonizing your life. She was sharing because balance requires weight, and sometimes but when you harmonize your life, having the right people around you,
you do, and you have to kind of leverage it out, right? So you're not just too heavy in one area either.
We've heard people talk a lot about life is about seasons, right?
Yeah,
and that people don't always come into your life to stay, right? People, they have seasons, a reason, and a lifetime, right? And a lot of times we meet someone, and in a season we have a really great time with these individuals. We get close with these individuals, and we hold on to them long past the season they're supposed to be there.
The time,
right? It's very few people that were meant to be in your life for a lifetime, and that doesn't mean that it has to be a negative, or a hurtful or a spiteful disconnect,
right?
And you know, when you're listening to God, sometimes the relationships just fade away. You're like, God, whatever happened? Look, whatever happened to Stacy? Right? Where is Stacy?
And it surfaces when
it's time
it,
to,
when it's time
to come
because
back.
in the meantime, there's still a journey you have to go on. There's a journey I have to go on, and if they intersect, that's one thing. And if it stays, then that's okay
fine.
too.
It's okay. But know the purpose and understand, and every and I'm starting to be okay with you know, my small circle. I'm
the release of it,
because when life happens, you
and
know, you learn, and it's not a bad thing. Whenever Robert passed away, I've never felt so alone in my life than I did in that season of my life. And people laugh at me, but I was in complete survival mode. And I don't even remember so much about that time in my life. I was I did some stuff in my life. I'm like getting these bills. Like, what the heck this come from? I signed for that. I did that.
You did.
You know, but
I remember.
Right?
I don't know if you remember. It was one night at the hospital. I was there. I remember, and it's like you don't even realize it, but you were just standing. You know?
And you know that lasted, he passed in 2006. That lasted, I don't think I started to come out of that space until like 2010. 2010. In 2010, I literally realized I was in trouble. You know, and a lot of people like who I thought would be my, for lack of better words, my Aaron and Ur, just wasn't there. They weren't available.
Right.
And I had the conversation. I had the cruise conversation that when, you know, I looked up in my mind when I first got word that he had passed. In my mind, there were some people that came to mind that I'm like, okay, they gonna hold me up in this, and they didn't.
Right.
And I had to realize that they could not have shown up even if they wanted to. And I'm not saying that they didn't want to. They just didn't know how to.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so that journey was about me and God, and me and God alone.
That's right.
Right? And I have no regrets from that now because even though I did ask for Sheena, she thinks it's so fun. I said, Sheena, did you graduate from school? Because I don't remember.
It was a blur.
I had kids.
Right.
For real, mama.
Yeah, that was a lot.
Because life is life. And it's
look at you.
So, Stacy, and I'm okay. And I'm loving life. I'm living my purpose. I'm doing what I believe God has called me to do. You know, in all honesty, I did try to run from it. I'm like, God, I don't want to do that no more. I don't want to talk to people. I don't want to do that no more. I don't want to do that no more. Right?
Season,
Yeah, I don't want to do that no more.
Yeah.
But just recently, God said to me, Paul, I have not changed my mind about what I've called you to do.
Can't change.
Okay, so, right. I haven't changed my mind.
Right.
So go ahead on and stop running, stop hiding, start being who you are in the earth, and it's okay.
Yeah.
He wants all of me, and I want to be all of me, and it's okay.
Yeah.
So listen, Stacey. So tell people how they can get in contact with you. Give them your information if they want to get some of those herbal tea, if they want some consultation, some resets, if they want to join me in December.
I know, say join. That's right. Well, I mean, all over social media, I am Jestacia Lannette. So they can certainly tune in that way. And then it's ttalkjj@gmail.com. That's a personal way to send a note. ttalkjj@gmail.com.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Awesome. So, you guys, you can tell with her beautiful glow inside and out that she has this self-care and if you need somebody to talk to, somebody to just help you reset and get your life back into that place of peace, that place that God promised us, right?
Amen.
And I really encourage you to reach out to Stacey. You can just tell her whole demeanor is just so calming. I didn't even have a hot flash in here today, Peter. Just so calming. Just absolutely.
Thank you all for having me too.
You are welcome. Sweet. We'll have to have you back. So thank you guys. This has been Coach PBJ in this game called Life, and we will see you guys again soon. Make it a great day. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Good job.
Fusion Radio. Download the app for Android and iPhone and take us everywhere you go. MyFusionRadio.com.